questions, especially good ones like that. And what I love, and we'll talk about more later in the group breakouts, is that you said you bring your whole family into it, that you share some of these relaxation activities or these physical activities. That's probably one of the best ways to maintain that activity is if your husband's doing it and your kids are doing it too. Did you get notice that we need to work a little faster? Okay. We'll talk a little bit faster. You do have all this in your slides. Get enough sleep. You can read through this, but again, sleep, sleep, sleep. Better said than done. I know. I was up all night almost. I slept 3.5 hours. So I know. Sleep. I'm going to make sure I sleep tonight. The main point is that last one. Sometimes stress in the form of rumination. That rumination is when you lay in bed and you think about, oh my gosh, did I get this done? Oh my gosh, I should do that. And you talk over and over and over. That can cause sleep problems. So I said, see relaxation techniques. So, if you can pass out, Lisa's going to pass out some handouts I have. Since we don't have a lot of time, I'm not going to go over it in detail, but the first page is on progressive muscle relaxation. That's a type of a relaxation exercise. It's one of the most powerful ones that studies have shown help people. And then the following several pages, someone else mentioned that their child may be experiencing, probably definitely is, experiencing stress. So I also included, it's a child psychologist in me, I included several handouts and attached to that one that is what you can help your children, your child, in terms of helping them to relax, okay? Scheduling time for yourself. I'll let you read over this since we have to move a little quicker. But again, I think we talked about this a little bit. Horse riding, exercising. The main thing is you don't want to get too competitive or too stressed out. Even if normally that would be considered positive stress, because your body's already overloaded, you don't want to add any more on top of that, even if it's something that normally would be a positive stress. Social support. You want to reach out, make new connections, renew connections, maybe with somebody you haven't talked to in a while. I had a friend who reached out to me who I hadn't talked to in a while, and her husband was just diagnosed with cancer. And I'm so glad she did. I didn't. The first thought, or second or third, wasn't, well, I haven't talked to him in a while. It was, yeah, let me go ahead and talk to you and share with you my experience, and it helped me too to realize how far we'd gone. Surround yourselves with supportive family, friends, coworkers, clergy, or spiritual leaders, anybody that you think can help. And then volunteer. There are lots of studies have been done. You think, how do I have time to even volunteer? But if you even have an hour a month, studies have shown that it helps you feel better when you're kind of giving to somebody else or to a cause. Okay. Thank you.
So just like Kathy was saying, I wanted to mention this study that Sharp did recently, and it was on the vagus nerve. And this is what I'm hearing you guys is like, what can I do quickly, right? Because we need to, it's funny, we need to de-stress, but we need to de-stress quickly. And this study came out, and basically the vagus nerve is the main nerve that connects your mind and your body, right? So connects literally your brain to your heart. And the first research that came out with this nerve was they found when it's stimulated, it started to rebuild the heart in diseased heart patients. So just by simply electrocuting basically this nerve, they saw the heart start to grow. And they were like, that's weird, I wonder why. And with more and more research that we found out is that as soon as you stimulate that nerve, it switches back to the parasympathetic nervous system that I mentioned earlier, and it decreases all that stress and increases all of those things that we need, like digestion and immunity, and then of course things like growth and rebuilding in the heart. So let me go back. So the number one way to do this is kind of what Kathy was saying, is the social interaction. That's what we find stimulates this nerve quickly and very profoundly. And another way that you could do it is laughter. So Kathy mentioned earlier, we sit in bed, right, and we ruminate, oh my gosh, is this done, is that done, did I joke? I do the same thing. I'm like, what do I have due tomorrow? I have to paper and the midterm, and oh my gosh. So what I started doing is watching The Daily Show before I went to bed, right? Because it makes me laugh, and all of you laugh, but it makes me laugh, and just that little bit of right, switches my system back into parasympathetic, out of sympathetic, and back into, and all of a sudden my heart rate goes down and everything switches back. So those types of things that cause laughter in your life. So, and if people, hopefully you have some individuals in your life that cause laughter, that's even better. So you have that one friend that just cracks you up and just makes you feel good, hang around with that person as much as you can. Even if they have to be with you in all the chaos, if they can make you laugh just every once in a while, it switches you right back into that parasympathetic nervous system. So that's kind of the quick and dirty way of getting you back into that system so you can sleep and eat. Yeah. Yes, you can. You can. So if you want that, inserted into your neck, feel free. But there are like tapping techniques that you can do. She did a couple of the muscle relaxations, and there are some tapping things that can help. It's not like shocking, but you're stressed on a plane. I'll do this, and people are like, "Who's that crazy lady tapping her neck?" But whatever, it works. It works. So definitely that happy social interaction is one of the quickest ways to put you into that. And then organization and preparation also help. And I know that
maybe we could skip
all this one. Okay, you got that one. And healthy diet and exercise, of course, because if you can't give your body what you need. So when I suggested earlier or mentioned earlier that your digestive system stops when you're in that sympathetic nervous state, when it turns back on and you don't have that proper nutrition in there to use it, you've just kind of double whammied yourself, right? So you've eaten those nachos and shut down your system, and then all of a sudden your body's like, oh, we can use this again, and then I've got nachos, and that's all I got. It's like, oh, what are you trying to do to me here, right? So if you can give yourself those proper nutrients to push that forward, that always helps. Yeah. That's how they found out, but it's stimulated by laughter and positive social interaction.
So can certain foods that have conductivity, like certain ions?
I haven't heard of that research. I mean, I get where you're going with it, that it stimulates.
Yeah.
So like B3, like niacin and stuff like that, all of that plays a huge role in connectivity. But that more has to do with like the neurons in the brain, not
Okay.
necessarily so much the nerve connections. Now, if the nerve connection was severed or hurt or deteriorating, then yes, that would help rebuild it. But I don't think that it would actually increase the electricity going to that area.
Okay.
But the laughter and this
Okay.
does do that.
Okay.
Okay, so the overview that we have here, good eating, diet, regular exercise, and that 15 minutes that Kathy suggested, there's a huge research out showing that if you do 30 minutes a day, even if it's just 10, 10, and 10, then that's all it's not all that you need, but it significantly increases your health. And then that also gives you time with your partner, maybe to get you a little bit more connected. And then the relaxation techniques, the healthy friendships, support from other parents in the same situation. These are good, positive things to do in here and gather these types of friendships. And then seeking professional counseling when needed. I always say that the best time to seek professional counseling is when you're healthy. Because then it's a little bit more productive, right? So it's better to clean a half dirty house than a whole dirty house. It takes a little less time. So a little bit of that. Now Kathy's going to go over the additional resources that she has.
Okay, so the first one is if you would like to have your child assessed or consider for therapy, that's the number for the outpatient psychiatry clinic. The second one is the Access line. That's good for everybody, your mom, you, for your kids. Just not pets. They don't do pets, but they do everybody else. So you can contact that number. And let me also give you my email address, because I mentioned earlier, I'd be happy to email you and respond if you have any questions. It's KT as in Tom, Williams at rchsd.org. That's Rady Children's Hospital, San Diego.org.